And a good afternoon to you folks once more. Joining us here for our ongoing coverage of the Aaron Dean trial. Of course, we are now in the punishment phase. Yesterday, he was found guilty of manslaughter for the death of Tatiana Jefferson back in 2019. Our colleague Jason Allen has been inside the courtroom the entire time. He is joining us live now on this live stream here to talk to us a little bit about where we are in this punishment phase. Jason, we heard character witnesses that were presented from both the state and the defense as well. Where are we now?
So the state has gone ahead and presented their witnesses. You're right, we heard that this morning, Ken, and the defense has gotten through a couple of them. They're in a lunch break right now. We think that we'll probably hear from another one or two, at least from the defense, when we get back from the break this afternoon. Maybe one additional one from the state as well. The state started off this morning with a forensic psychologist who had actually talked to Aaron Dean when he first wanted to become a police officer and was applying to be a police officer. And that psychologist actually made the determination, he said at the time, that he was not a good fit for that job. He said that he found he had a domineering type of attitude, that he was narcissistic, that it was a personality that could potentially put himself or other people in danger if he was to get that position. So the state trying to lay out the case that obviously he never should have been in a position like that. They also brought a woman who had knew Dean when he was in college. There was something that happened between them in a room when she was studying. She felt that she was harassed by him, sexually harassed. In fact, went out of that room, ran across the street to make a report, and the UT Arlington Police Department actually pursued a charge in that case. We also heard from Tatiana Jefferson's brother, Adarius, who talked about how she was his best friend, his younger sister. Last time that he saw her was when she made a trip out to San Diego, where he's in the Navy, and he lost her shortly after that. And then he talked about how they lost their mother, Yolanda, just 90 days after that. Defense took over the case. They brought up a character witness, as you mentioned, who had known Aaron in church, worked with him for several years, doing music together in church. A very different description maybe from what we had heard from that forensic psychologist, saying that he was somebody who was dependable, incredibly smart, talked about how he was very knowledgeable, knew a lot of things, said he probably has forgotten more about music than I ever knew. So we heard from him, and hang on, I'm going through my notes here. Oh, we also heard from I'll just go through one more. Heard from somebody here who works here in the courthouse, talking about the probation process. So the defense clearly trying to set up that possibility of the jury just giving Aaron Dean probation for this, state fighting hard to make sure that he sees at least some time.
Yeah, there was a lot being made of that witness that you're talking about. That's Christina Livingston, a senior court officer there for the 369th District Court, Judge Gallagher's court, in fact. Jason, wanted to ask you, and again, because yesterday we talked about this, right now, as it lies, the state's sort of parameters for a guilty verdict of manslaughter, that carries a penalty of 2 to 20 years. It's wide-ranging, but is there any determination, or is there any indicator right now as to whether this jury, well, that's a tough question. I'd hate to even ask you that. You know what I was getting ready to ask. Are they leaning for the lighter or the heavier side of things?
Yeah, I do.
But from the testimony that was given today, does that offer any indication as to where this could possibly fall?
You know, it could, and I'll just tell you, just from watching the jury, they were paying close attention to what that forensic psychologist was saying about, you know, his time spent with Aaron Dean. It's tough to know how much that's going to play into their decision making. And you're right in that wide range, right? 2 to 20 is a big range, and anything that is less than 10, they have the option for him to serve that under probation. More than that, then he wouldn't be eligible for that. He would actually have to be behind bars. It'd be interesting to hear these next couple witnesses. I think we're expecting somebody from Aaron Dean's family. I'm not sure who the other person is that is going to come up from the state. So we'll kind of see how that maybe plays into everything that the jury goes back with this afternoon. If they go back this afternoon, we're still waiting to see that.
Right. Because so far the only witness that we've heard on Dean's character witness side is just the friend of his from church. I believe his name is Tim Foster.
Right.
So it would be interesting if we heard from someone who's a little bit closer to him, see what all they have to say. All right, Jason, court will get back at 1:45. Is that what we were told? About 1:45 or so?
Yeah, about 1:45. And if you have a minute, I'll throw in one other
please
thing
do.
that's just kind of
Sure.
happened outside of the other proceedings with Dean this morning. You know, there were a lot of statements yesterday that came out after the verdict. You know, from city leaders, from the mayor and city council, from council members. The judge has paid close attention to that. So twice today already, there's been a Fort Worth City Councilman, Chris Nettles, who was called in, and then just after the lunch break, the mayor of Fort Worth, Mattie Parker, was also called in. The judge, from what we understand, and was sitting in there for the last one with the mayor, took notice of the written statements that they both put out following the verdict yesterday. Now we know that Nettles has been a sworn witness in this case. The judge pointed out to Parker that she knew that she was under a gag order, and there was a broad gag order issued to just about everybody connected with this very early on, 3 years ago, not to talk to any of the media about this until it's all done. So the judge has ordered both of them to return next month for a hearing, a show cause hearing, possibly in contempt of that order. It's very quick, it was very short. The judge was very stern about it, though, saying no more statements, don't say anything else to the media. Well, he said, I'm going to get through this trial, because then that means not just the guilt-innocence phase, but this punishment phase, and it is not done until the defendant is gone and this whole jury has been
And of course,
released.
we know that is not the case. We are still actually far from that. Okay, Jason, well, thank you very much for all your work inside the courthouse, bringing us these updates. Of course, as you mentioned, still several people we're going to hear from later on today, but we will visit with you a little later on in the day over the air on CBS 11 News at 4 o'clock for any new updates, my friend. Thank you, sir. All right.
You bet.
Folks, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you at 4 o'clock on CBS 11 News at 4. Thanks for joining us.